So, Gabby, people like to make the comparison like, oh, it's really easy just to make a dinner reservation on something like Open Table, but why is making a healthcare appointment so hard? Shouldn't it be just as easy? But for those of us that work in healthcare or live it day to day, we know that it's really not that simple. There's complex specialties that might have to ask some qualifying questions ahead of time. For example, like if you have a minor that's trying to schedule themselves, that there might be specific rules around that, or you have even something simple like a new versus returning patient. I imagine that that's important to know. How do organizations typically navigate this when they're building out their scheduling forms?
They would need what's called conditional jump logic. So this would direct the patient through the form based on whether a specific condition is met. And this is what helps prevent scheduling mistakes.
Okay, that makes sense. So is this pretty easy to do for most organizations? So let's say like I'm a practice manager at an ortho clinic. I'm managing the scheduling. We use ECW. I have a physician, as I often do, that like only does right hips on Monday and left knees on Tuesday. Is there like a button or a really easy way to do this inside of ECW that creates this like guided scheduling experience?
No, not unless you know how to write HTML.
Of course not.
So any logic in the form that branches out or has any, specific requirements that the patient must meet depends on understanding how to write HTML or coding experience, which a lot of admin staff typically don't.
So if they don't have that, are they stuck having to have patients call? How do they build out these forms if they want to have self-scheduling?
I presume that they have to put in an IT ticket and wait to get this built.
Yikes. Okay. So that I would imagine takes a lot of time or creates unnecessary friction, and they don't have control over that. So I understand you've been working on Luma's Form Builder 2.0. Does that help with this issue?
Yes, definitely. And the really cool thing about Form Builder 2.0 is it makes the form building experience a no code task for the staff so that they can really build it on their own without having to be software engineers.
Very cool. Can you give us a demo of what you mean by that no code form building?
Yeah, totally.
Very cool.
Okay. So this is a typical scheduling form flow. Alex, like you said, a lot of practices want to direct the user through different flows based on if they're a new or returning patient, or if they're over 18, under 18. Like we were talking about, it's really difficult to build that in forms today without knowing how to write code. But with Form Builder 2.0, all you have to do is click on the jump logic button and then click add rule. And you can choose through a number of variables that we have synced in from your EHR about the patient or their appointment history, what have you. And right here is where you can specify, age in years. If we find that the patient is younger than 18, then we actually want to direct them to just call the office to schedule. We don't want them going through the form. Or, if we identify that the patient is returning, so they already have an established record in the EHR, that means we want them to go through the form in a specific way. However, if they're a new patient, I would want to click the variable patient is new, make sure that the condition is set to true. Then I actually want to ask them to select their insurance provider and then pick up the form from that step. But in all of the cases, if the patient doesn't meet any of this criteria, I'm fine with them continuing to question number 2 and then going through the form as expected.
Very cool. So I imagine that's really nice to have the power to do this in the hands of the people that are actually doing the scheduling and that this impacts. So I really appreciate you showing this to us today, Gabby. If you'd like to learn more about how Form Builder 2.0 can help your organization, please click the link. We'd love to talk to you.